Alright, and then last but not least, so we already covered the carbs, lipids, and proteins, the ones that you can find on your nutrition label. Now let's talk about nucleic acids. So nucleic acids, they're the ones that aren't on your label because they don't really contribute to your caloric intake and energy. Now nucleic acids, here's one that might seem very familiar to you. So this is DNA. And we notice that it's actually, and notice that it kind of repeats over and over and has this kind of polymer-like structure. So these are long chains of nucleotides. So nucleic acids are polymers of nucleotides. This is why they have that kind of repeating structure you see with this double helix in DNA. So DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So that D is very important, and then nucleic acid is the N and A. Then this is the very, very famous RNA. So that mRNA you've been hearing about with those vaccines, they're a type of ribonucleic acid. So they're related, but not the same. They're very similar, but DNA and RNA aren't exactly the same. So with RNA, typically when you find RNA in your cell, unless it's like tRNA or rRNA, but when we talk about the mRNA, it tends to be a single strand. So here we have RNA, a single strand of that, and whereas DNA, notice that you actually have two of these, what we call a sugar phosphate backbone, and it's represented by these gray ribbons over here. So this is why you might have heard the term double helix, because compared to RNA, which only has one backbone, notice that DNA has this two backbones twisted together. So that spiral shape is what you call a helix, so that's why they say DNA has a helix, double helix shape. And one other difference between DNA and RNA is that notice that DNA and RNA, they can include these three nucleobases here, cytosine, guanine, and adenine, same in both, but DNA has thymine and RNA has uracil. So these are the basic nucleobases. So these are the parts that can change between the different steps of, or along a chain of nucleic acids. So DNA has this set of 4, and there is overlap. RNA does have adenine, cytosine, guanine, but thymine is with DNA and uracil is with RNA. Now, what happens when you take a bunch of these nucleotides and link them together? Well, this is when you get a nucleic acid. So I like to think of it this way. Why do those nucleobases and those 4 different types, depending if it's DNA or RNA, why does it matter? I like to draw this little analogy between a nucleic acid and like a charm bracelet. With the charm bracelet, you have a basic structure that holds it all together. So this sugar phosphate backbone of a nucleic acid, it's going to be the same regardless of what's attached to it. This backbone repeats over and over and over again, just like this chain on this little friendship or charm bracelet over here. But the parts that dangle off, those parts are different, they have different letters, and these letters encode information. So just like this little friendship bracelet has information, has a message, same with the nucleobases that are off a sugar phosphate backbone. They have a message. And yes, those are verb noises as well.